CNN.com, November 2nd, 2015. Who has the right to tell me that I don't deserve this choice? That I deserve to suffer for weeks or months in tremendous amount of physical and emotional pain? Why should anyone have the right to make that choice for me? Now, imagine a loved one who's in constant pain and they're suffering. They can't walk, they can't talk, they can't bathe themselves. It even hurts just to take a breath. Eventually, we will all die, but some of us will have the tragic ability to decide when and how we will pass. Physician-assisted suicide should be legal nationwide to allow those who are in constant pain and suffering and have a terminal illness to end their suffering and pain with dignity. So today I'm going to talk about a woman's personal story and her struggle with a terminal diagnosis. Then I'm going to talk about the criteria of physician-assisted suicide, and last, how you can make a difference and bring an end to this. So first, I want to tell you the story of a woman named Brittany Maynard. Brittany Maynard was 29 years old when she found out she had an aggressive brain tumor. Her life immediately changed. She was in the hospital on multiple occasions. She had a partial craniotomy and a resection of her temporal lobe to stop the growth of her brain tumor. So 3 months after those two surgeries, she found out that the cancer came back and even more aggressive than the first time. Her treatment plan came to full brain radiation. Now, cancer.org on June 30th, 2015 states, radiation to the brain can cause these side effects: seizures, trouble with memory and speech, scalp and skin changes, and hearing loss. Brittany knew that she didn't want this for the last few months of her life. Maynard stated on CNN.com, November 2nd, 2015, "There is no treatment that would save my life, and the recommended treatment would have destroyed the time I had left." So then she decided this is what wasn't what she wanted. Offering.com on February 18th, 2015, "The option to end one's suffering when facing the final stages of terminal illness should be a basic human right and not dependent upon one's zip code." Brittany came face to face with this situation. She lived in California in 2014, a state at the time that did not legalize physician-assisted suicide. She then had to move her entire life and her family to Oregon, a state that has had legal physician-assisted suicide since October of 1997. There, Brittany was able to have her final days and pass peacefully with her friends and family by her side. Now, I want you to imagine going to so now that you know a little bit about Brittany, I want to talk about the criteria needed to actually receive physician-assisted suicide. So imagine going to your loved one's doctor's office and you hear one of the most devastating words, terminal. There are no treatment options and 6 months or less to live. Now what? Physician-assisted suicide is an option. There are only 4 states that have legalized physician-assisted suicide, in which a doctor can knowingly and legally prescribe a lethal dose of drugs that will end the suffering of their terminally ill patient. Now, the 4 states that have legalized physician-assisted suicide include California since October of 2015, so that was last month, Oregon, Vermont, and Washington. Montana also has legal physician-assisted suicide, but it's via court ruling, so their rules are a little bit different than the 4 of those states, so I'm just going to focus on the 4 states for now. So in those 4 states, to receive physician-assisted suicide, there are criteria that the terminally ill patient has to have. So euthanasia.procon.org on June 5th, 2015 states, 18 years of age or older, a resident of the state, capable of making and communicating health care decisions for him or herself, diagnosed with a terminal illness that will lead to death within 6 months or less, physically and mentally capable of self-administering the aid in dying drug medication. So even with all this information, I believe the most important aspect of criteria that needs to be met is to have a support system and to actually be able to make this choice for yourself. Debate.org on November 8th, 2015 states, "People have the right to bear arms and freedom of speech. So why can we not have the freedom to make a decision on whether we want to live or not?" So now that you know the criteria needed to receive physician-assisted suicide, I will now talk about how you can make a difference for someone who can't fight for themselves. So you can do so by creating and signing petitions. You should also go to www.change.org/u/Amanda Ballard, my first and last name, and sign the petition created by myself asking the President Obama, U.S. House of Representatives, and the U.S. Senate to legalize physician-assisted suicide nationwide. By signing my petition, each one of you guys have the opportunity to help someone in need and change someone's life for the greater. Even all of us together, people just like you and me, can also come together and create national awareness and just bring more voices to physician-assisted suicide to make it legal in all 50 states. Without our voices, no one's going to know that this is an issue and no one's going to solve it. So you guys have the opportunity to really make a change and really help those who are suffering. Without your help, the people who are suffering from terminal illness will continue to slowly and painfully deteriorate, but we have the power to help them. So, in conclusion, I've talked about a young woman's personal story, the criteria of physician-assisted suicide, and last, how you can make a difference and change the life of a suffering person. Physician-assisted suicide allows a loved one to pass on their own time and gives them control over their terrible suffering. They are able to decide when and where they will have their final moments with their friends and family. And most importantly, it grants peace amongst those who never thought it was an option.